Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Goblin Ringleader podcast. I'm your host, Jack, and today we'll be going over a match that I played at the NRG last night against Green Saga. And Don was a great guy to play against. He was a great sport the entire time. Uh, we had a great conversation the entire game. As you can see, we're both smiling, just talking about modern and life. Uh, it's fun to play. It's fun to play a format where you have a lot of jovial people, and it's not so focused on trying to edge out wins. But so my seven's okay here. I don't have a one drop, but I do have Snoop on two and a Matron on three to grab Harbinger, and I have double Lord. I think it's double Snoop. So if I Matron for the Harbinger, if I take a turn off, I can play a second Snoop and play around removal. Um, but my opponent's on the play, fetches. I'm very scared of Thoughtseize here, because my hand's already pretty slow. So if he takes my Matron, then I'm just hoping that my top decks are good. Which can be okay, but it's not always where you want to be. Slams another Goyf. Goyf is really good. It allows him to pressure me while still just playing his cards, because I'll be interacting with his stuff, things will trade, eventually they'll fill up the graveyard. Notably, it doesn't count my graveyard, it just counts his. So this is it's bad against graveyard hate, but it's gonna do a lot of work here. You can see it's a 1/2 right now, which means I can't ping it with my munitions expert if I had one. Swings in for one, I go to 19. Untap, upkeep, draw. Draw an Aether Vial. I wish I had that on turn one. However, I'm going to just elect to go Snoop, hope that I either have a Kiki-Jiki or a Harbinger on top. If you don't have a Harbinger in your hand, you don't have a Snoop or a Kiki-Jiki in your hand, you have six cards out of your deck that could possibly help you go infinite. And so you almost always want to jam the Snoop as often as possible. Your opponent could also just have a bunch of creatures in their hand and hope to win fairly when Snoop's not a fair card. Pass it back to my opponent, flashes in a Bowmaster, pings my face because he can't kill the Snoop, and goes to his turn. So he has 3 power right now on the field. Goes to combat, attacks with the token and another Goyf. This signals to me that he has Bowmasters, and I tank for a second. I don't want to lose to a Bowmaster, so I just take 2, go to 16. Tiny tank. Sometimes you want to block the 1/1s, but usually it's when your opponent's tapped out. Opponent plays Life from the Loam to draw a card, basically, hitting their land drop. Overgrown Tomb, really, really good. Untap, upkeep, draw. Verdant Catacombs really good because it helps thin the deck and it powers of the Goyf. Untap, upkeep, draw the Cavern, flip the top card as a Matron. Cavern on Goblin. I'm going to just draw a card with Snoop, basically, by playing the Matron off the top. I get to flip to see if there's a Kiki-Jiki there, because then I have the option to make a couple Goblins. But it wouldn't do much because I'm already tapped out. But it's good to show your opponent the information, because technically once you cast the Matron off the top card is revealed, and then when the tutor resolves, you change the top card again. So Matron puts the Harbinger in my hand for next turn. Top card is a mountain, or a Blood Crypt, pardon me. Opponent fetches for a tapped Overgrown Tomb. I guess when I misspoke it was correct, but I'm getting the feeling from the way that he's sequencing things that he's bottled up on 2-drops because he hasn't hit his 4th land yet, and he cast that Life from the Loam to get a land back, hoping that this turn he can probably have another land drop. And he does have another land drop. Now he has a conundrum because he can just tap out, play some aggressive threats, but if he does, and he knows I have the Harbinger, I just win. So he has to play this game where he's like, okay, I'm going to push damage, but hold up removal, which is the right way. That's the right thing to do against goblins. You need to make sure that you kill the combo pieces and then survive through the late game. So he passes it back. This signals to me as double bowmasters. Anti-toggle, untap, show him the card that he already knows about so he doesn't gain any information. And I'll try to do it. If he does have a fatal push or double bowmasters, this means that he has to spend basically his entire turn stopping the combo, and I still get to tutor for a goblin and put it on top. So I can still get a Sling Gang if he kills my Snoop, and I have 4 mana. I have more than 4 mana, as you can see. But his Goyfs will get very big. If he dredges instead of draws in his draw step, then his Goyfs will be very, very big. First Bowmaster, ping, trigger. Second Bowmaster, ping, trigger, dies. Then my trigger resolves. And I get the Sling Gang, because now he has a 3/3 token, and he's a Goyf. And I'm trying really hard here just to buy time, because I need to either win the fair game plan, which right now is not looking good because I have 1/1s and he's playing a bunch of 3/3s, or I try to buy time to draw into the combo because I have a Snoop in my hand. I just need to find a Harbinger. I believe he draws an Inquisition, which is really good because he gets to just take the Snoop. But I have a lot of goblins. So if he doesn't take the Snoop, I'm able to go, well, let's say he takes the Lord, because we're in a fair game plan. If he takes the Lord, then I just play the Snoop and I hope that I can find, again, I have so many draws that go infinite. So he always has to take the Snoop. That's a note for viewers at home. Always kill Snoop. If you see Snoop, Snoop is the top priority, always. Plays another Goyf. Plays a Boots, a Lava Spur Boots. Gives it haste. The Goyfs are 3/4s. Attacks with 9. Double chump. Take 3, go to 10. Oh, my life was right there. Put my face over here. No. It doesn't really matter. Shout out to Haviva and Kat on commentary. They did an amazing job. If I have nothing to say, I'll unmute it. Play the Sling Gang because I'm trying to just buy time. And this chump blocks 2 3/3s, and it gains me 2 life, so the other 3/3 is basically just a ping. And I have a Matron in my hand, so I can grab another Sling Gang. Like, we are grinding here. Opponent draws a Bauble. Bauble's me. Top card, I don't remember what it was. He doesn't. I don't show the camera because I don't want to risk seeing it. Now that they are a 4/5. A sorcery land artifact, so actually 3/4. Math doesn't change much. Still attacks for 9. Same thing. Block. Sack to drain gain. Take 3, go to 9. Now I really just want to draw a Kiki Jiki. It would be so good here. Buys Giganta and passes. Upkeep, gets his draw off Mishra's Bauble, and I get my Vial to 2. I naturally draw the Harbinger, so now I can sequence the Snoop being, or if I'm Matron, I can grab a Snoop because he Inquisitioned my Snoop that was in my hand. If I Matron, I can grab the Snoop, Vial it in at the end of his turn, and I'm at enough life where I think that I can survive one more turn with just chumps and drain gains. The tank here is whether or not I grab the Conspicuous Snoop or Munitions Expert. And Munitions Expert just isn't good enough because it might be able to deal with the token, but then we're still in chump block mode and we don't have an avenue to win. Right now, I see the corner. We can round the corner and we can win. If he doesn't have exactly Fatal Push or Thoughtseize, I Violet in at his end step. I untap, I Vial in the Harbinger, and I go infinite. So that's the line we're going for. 3 mana Matron. Get the Snoop. Play a Lord, because we have another 2-drop. Play an Arid Mesa. And I pass the turn because I try to signal that I'm still doing chump blocks. I'm trying not to let him know that I believe I've won this game. He has an impressive board state. He can cast a Giganta. He draws another Mishra's Bauble. So he's very bottlenecked. He has to decide here if he taps out for Giganta and hopes that I'm not able to just win. Top card. Another Bauble. Baubles himself. Very tight spot, very tight spot. So in my mind, I'm okay if he repeats what he did last turn. He just attacks for 9. I block with both my guys and his Netherglyphs. Sack to drain game. This time I get 2 Lord triggers, so I get extra card advantage and I gain some life. So block both the Glyphs, sack the Matron, then the Lord, so I get 2 death triggers. Take 3, go to 8. Top card's Lord, Munitions Expert. 2 really good flips. Second main, he's going to sack a Bowmasters. Make the Glyphs 4/5s. He says I should have done that first, but he didn't see it. I'm thinking about responding by putting the Snoop in play, but I want to wait to the end step. That's me shuffling my cards, trying to be patient. Putting a Snoop into play. Top card, untap upkeep. Go to 3. Draw. Top card. I think about casting with my mana, but then I'm like, no, I want to cast those 2-drops, so I'm going to Violet in, but he has no cards in hand, so I don't really know what I'm playing around here. I want to play as clean and tightly as possible always. Show him that I have the Slinging on board and the Kiki Jiki. It's not in my hand. We go to game 2. Netherglyph did a really good Tarmogoyf impression there, and it was very aggressive. Not being able to get a creature in the bin was huge for the clocks being slowed down a little bit. Also, the fact that he didn't draw an Urza Saga was a huge point in that game. Urza Saga allows him to get Shadow Spear, which allows the Netherglyphs to have trample, and it also allows him to grab Pithing Needle to stop my combo. Which doesn't look like he plays a Pithing Needle in the main. It's in the side, but we go to the sideboards. Cat, it was a 1-lander. You got it right. So I bring in Leyline of the Void because I saw Life from the Loam and Netherglyph. And I have to assume that there's Tarmogoyfs if there's Netherglyphs. Even though I did see Inquisition, and I assume that there's Thoughtseizes, I think the Sanctity is a little less powered, especially if I'm on the draw. I want to take them off their tempo game plan, so the Leyline of the Void slows them down considerably if all their aggressive creatures do things out of the graveyard. So, and the 1-land hand had to be mulliganed. It did have 2 Leylines, but the 6 also had a Leyline and castable spells, so much better. Love the commentary by Javier and Kat. They kill it every single time. Um, the Chalice I didn't bring in, and I cut the Vials. That was the thing. Is on the draw, Vial is a 4 of that you can take out without disrupting your deck at all. You don't really want to be playing it on the draw because your opponent has 2 mana. They have 2 mana before you do, and so your Vial is just always a turn behind where you want it to be. So an amazing card game 1, game 2, and 3, you usually swap it out for the hate cards out of the sideboard. And when I die, you can bury me with my ley lines because I love 4 Leyline of the Void, 4 Leyline of Sanctity. Half the decks in the format get affected by either a turn 1 Leyline of the Void or turn 1 Leyline of Sanctity. We'll go back to the match. I have a pregame, Leyline of the Void. Opponent fetches a Bloodstained Mire for a shocked Overgrown Tomb. Plays the Netherglyph into the Leyline because it's just a play that he has to make. He has to hope that he finds some way to remove the Leyline in the future, and then this will be a beat stick. For now, untaps, plays a fetch, and just passes it back. Untap, upkeep, draw, play a land, and pass. I just have I have 2 mana. I have a Munitions Expert in my hand. I am trying to play around Bowmasters here. I want to see him cast the Bowmasters, and then when he goes to and then he went go to his turn. When he ends his turn, flash in my Munitions Expert, shoot the Goyf. It gives a Surveil land. Shuffling's hard. It's always hard. Having good conversation. Don was a fun time. I sometimes you play the ley line and your opponent just goes, "Well, I didn't think about that," and those are the funniest games. Bin's another Netherglyph because he's like, "I need to find some interaction for this ley line of the Void." I believe he draws Terra Sunder, so he's like, "Oh wow, I can just tear this now." Passes. He has mana up, so I don't want to flash my Bowmaster or my Munitions Expert into a Bowmasters because then it doesn't deal any damage. He goes to Terra Sunder, or tear apart Terra Sunder, the Leyline of the Void. I say that's fine, but then I realize actually I have a response. I'm sorry. In response, I have to shoot your dude for 1 because now if you fetch to grow the Goyf, it's still in exile. And the Goyf is also exiled, which is very important. I don't lose the Munitions Expert. I think about it as just like a spell, but it's a creature. It stays in the battlefield. My brain is just not here right now. Sometimes, yeah, I point to the brain. Sometimes you think about all of the big level, high level, like the sequencing issues and the way that you want to like approach the game. That sometimes you do certain very small things systematically incorrect. You're like, well, I'm going to do this and then this and then this, but you just did it in the wrong order. All the right things in the wrong order doesn't help you. But pass it over to my opponent because that was my end step. He went to kill the thing. Untaps and draws. Six. Okay, so 6 here is really good, right? He can attack, he can mill himself over, he can find his Urza Saga, he can pick it up, he can play it. So I have to kill this 6, but it is 4 toughness. There's not anything in my deck that deals 4. I deal 3. Goes a Pithing Needle, named Snoop. In response to the Pithing Needle, I fetch, so he can't just Stone Rain me. I get a tap land because I don't have anything to use the mana for. He names Snoop and passes, untaps, upkeeps, and draws. I draw Kiki-Jiki, so now if I can get to 5 mana, I can cast that Kiki-Jiki. As it is, I think about sequencing. I realize that my one hope is to just throw my thing into his dude so that I can bolt it, and it dies. his eyes say it all. He goes, oh, I should not have blocked. um, my hope there was that my only out is if he blocks. I have to hope that he does. And Mog Mob doing work is just a 3-mana bolt there. Pass it back, untap up, keep, draw. Opponent draws. I believe that's an Inquisition. Inquisitions me. I have some late game cards. His eyes tell it all, folks. Kiki Jiki and Sling Gang are my 2 best late game cards. If I can go 4th land into a Sling Gang, 5th land into a Kiki Jiki, that's a really good spot for me. He takes the Harbinger because it's the combo piece. And now if I draw Snoop, I don't just win. I have a Matron in my hand, which can Matron for the Goblin land in case I don't draw my 4th land. But I do, and I have one game plan here. He's tapped out, play the Sling Gang, off to the races. It's crazy how fast Sling Gang can turn a game around. He's got a 5/5, but I can chump the 5/5 for 2 turns and gain 2 life and deal him 2 damage. Baseline. Untap, upkeep, draw. I explain. He's like, but you can't go infinite, right? I'm like, no, I don't need to go infinite. I just cast a Kiki Jiki in your end step. I copy the Sling Gang. The Sling Gang stays around till my turn. Then during my turn, I copy a Sling Gang, and then I just attack. And that's usually enough to close the game. And he goes, oh, God. As it stands, he drew a Bowmaster, so he's able to shoot anything that he wants or ping my face. He elects to ping the Sling Gang, which is the correct choice. I sack it to drain game. He does not get the Orc Army. Got him down to 14. Counts the card types. Passes it. Oh, no. It's a math. And Life from the Loam. Picks up a land. And passes it back. Untap, upkeep. I drew a Lord. I'm going to Matron this turn. Matron's going to grab a Sling Gang. We're just going to try to chain these things together. Some people say that playing less than 4 is not correct, but I believe that it's a 4-mana bolt that, and that's not always great, right? But like 4 mana, 3 damage across 3 bodies, and if you have other goblins, it's just like fuel for the fire. It's kind of like a Yawgmoth. It's an uncommon Yawgmoth, but instead of shrinking creatures, you just kill your opponent. Here my opponent plays a Giganta. Usually this would be a big problem. I just cast the Sling Gang, and I drew another one, which is insane. Sling Gang's going to make 2 guys, and it's better in multiples because they have to kill the Sling Gang. You get 2 tokens, and then you play your second Sling Gang, and it's even better. Because it's non-legendary too, it's amazing. It's also the best card to cast after a board wipe. Your opponent's Supreme Verdict's here, they pass it back. You go, here's my Sling Gang, I have 3 power, I have 6 damage presented next turn. It's great. It's also good against the ring, because if they're chaining rings together in their upkeep after they lose protection, you can deal them damage, and then if they have ring damage, that makes your math easier. So I play a Sling Gang and pass it back. My opponent untaps and draws. He drew a lot of lands this game, and he didn't draw any Urza Sagas. There might have been a point where he could have started dredging instead of drawing to try to hit Urza Saga. Urza Saga is really, really good against me, especially if you have, well, I guess you have Pithing Needle already on the board, but you can grab a Shadow Spear and start gaining life. Gaining life and dealing damage at the same time. It's very strong. Oh, quick ad break, I'm so sorry. We are going to go look at the list. So, the recent changes that I've made. We had a Blood Moon in the sideboard, but I lost. I went 3-1 last night, and my loss was to Blood Moon I brought in, and it kept me from casting my 12, 13 black cards, because I don't play a basic swamp, because we run double red into triple red, cards. So I just cut the Blood Moons and I brought in another Chalice. Blood Moon isn't always the best because sometimes you bring it against control and it turns off your caverns and your dens. Um, but the main flex slot, this list is pretty tight. The main flex slot is how many Sling Gangs you play. I love 4. Ever since I've gone to 4, I don't want to change it. The main deck Trashmaster is amazing, but it could be another Ringleader. The Pashalik Mons could be a Squee Dubious Monarch if you're expecting a lot of control, or you want to just race more efficiently. And then the number of Mog Mobs. I went up to 2 because this card has just overperformed every time that I've drawn it. Also against control, just having like 2 uncountable 3-drop bolts into 4 uncountable 3-drop or 4-drop bolts, absolutely amazing. The board's very clean. Meltdown is your answer to most hate cards out of the sideboards. Also, it makes your Asmo matchup incredibly much better because your Asmo matchup is horrendous. Turn 1, Street Wraith or Cookbook, discard a card. Turn 2, discard a card. Play. Well, the worst line against this is turn 1, cycle Street Wraith, cast Asmo. I don't think we can win against that. Against Asmo, we bring in 2 Meltdown, 3 Chalice. We could do Leyline of the Void, but then we bring in... Actually, yeah, let's do 4 Leyline, 2 Meltdown, and 3 Chalice. That gives us 9 cards to cut. They're an aggressive deck. We're not trying to go late game. So, because if we go late game, usually then they win. We're gonna shave